Tatapi natamanasya Tatapi natamanasya Natanataya natitam Natanataya natitam Padavareyata rupe Padavareyata rupe Janiyam te tvarupinaha Janiyam te tvarupinaha Tatapi natamanasya Natanataya natitam Padavaredyata rupe Janiyam te tvarupinaha Tatapi natamanasya Natanataya natitam Padavareyata rupe Janiyam te tvarupinaha Tata api. In spite of that, natamanasya, of the one who is asking for. Nata, O Lord, nataya, please award. Natitam, as it is desired. Pada avare, in the matter of mundane and transcendental. Yata, as it is. Rupe, in the form. Janiyam, may it be known. Te, your. Tu, but. Arupinaha, one who is formless. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhayacharya Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In spite of that, my Lord, I am praying to you to kindly fulfill my desire. May I please be informed how, in spite of your transcendental form, you assume the mundane form, although you have no such form at all. Okay, so we'll read text 27 also, because there's no purport for 26. Yathatma maya yogena nana shaktyo pabrimhitam vilumpan visuchankrenan viprad atmanam atmana. And please inform me how you, by your own self, manifest different energies for annihilation, generation, acceptance and maintenance by combination and permutation. Purport. The whole manifestation is the Lord Himself by diffusion of His different energies only, namely the internal, external and marginal, just as the sunlight is the manifestation of the energy of the sun planet. Such energy is simultaneously one with and different from the Lord, just as the sunshine is simultaneously one with and different from the sun planet. The energies are acting by combination and permutation by the indication of the Lord, and the acting agents, like Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, are also different incarnations of the Lord. In other words, there is nothing but the Lord, and still the Lord is different from all such manifestive activities. How it is so will be explained later on. Amma Gyanatimrandasya Kiranchana Shalakaya Chakshuran Meditam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutade Svayam Rupagadamayam Dadate Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapatakamelam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sakhachatam Sahaganaragunatam Satam Tam Sachivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parichana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Vadan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamshta He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandha Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhana Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. So we are coming closer and closer to the famous Chatushloki of Srimad Bhagavatam in 9th chapter, and called Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. And so we know how the story went, that when Lord Brahma was born from the lotus flower, which sprouted from the navel of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, that he first tried by his own endeavor to figure out what's going on, where he is, what the origin of this lotus flower is. So he tried to climb down in and outside along the stem, but he couldn't find the origin no matter how hard he tried. So eventually he came back up, heard the instruction of the Lord, not face to face, but he simply heard actually the tapping of the waves, giving the sound tap tap. So he understood that that was the instruction of the Lord to perform tapasya, to gain his favor and thus become enlightened by him, to know what his duties and how he should do it. And so then we heard how the Lord personally came to Lord Brahma, but also then showed him, gave him vision of Vaikuntha Loka, of his own abode, and there with his surrounded by his devotees serving him, not only Lakshmi Devi herself but also other servants, such as personifications of religion, of the Vedas, and all those servants. And so he could directly see into the spiritual world how the Lord is served there in pure love. And and then the Lord personally shook Lord Brahma's hand, and thus assured him that he will be successful, and explained to him how pleased he was by his penance, and that because he didn't do any mundane form of tapasya, as we hear also in Bhagavatam other examples of demons, for example, famous example here, Hiranyakashipu, who actually performed tapasya to this very Lord Brahma to become so extremely powerful, to rule the whole universe. But that is not real tapasya, because we know tapasya means voluntary acceptance of troubles to the body, yes, which they also do, but with what purpose? With the purpose to please the Lord, to advance in spiritual life. And advance in spiritual life means to please the Lord, to come closer to the Lord in our loving relationship with Him, which we all constitutionally have as spirit soul. And so the Lord explained that this kind of tapasya that you perform, it's actually none different from me. He's like in text 23, he said, "O sinless Brahma, you may know from me that it was I who first ordered you to undergo penance when you were perplexed in your duty. Such penance is my heart and soul, and therefore penance and I are none different." So, it's the Lord then exclaimed to him that yes, it was I who ordered you to do that, and thus this kind of penance, it's actually my heart and soul, and therefore it's none different from me. So, not to be confused with any other forms of unnecessarily taking trouble to gain anything else other than the favor of the Lord, to please Him. And so then further in text 24, the Lord Garbhodakashaya Vishnu was saying to Lord Brahma, "I create this cosmos by such penance, I maintain it by the same energy, and I withdraw it all by the same energy. Therefore the potential power is penance only." So we know that as we heard, even demons, even who don't do proper penance, real tapasya to please the Lord, but even otherwise, by undergoing in the material world to achieve anything, it's only possible by tapasya in one way or other, even in a perverted way, where it's for some selfish purpose. Still, it has a lot of potency to simply withdraw from sense gratification and thus channel all the energies for a different purpose. So, because still the Lord will give then the material blessings if someone undergoes penance. if he does it for spiritual purpose, of course, then he gets spiritual advancement, spiritual blessings. But if he does it for a different purpose, then he gets, material power. And so then in text 25, Lord Brahma answered that, O personality of Godhead, you are situated in every living entity's heart as the supreme director, and therefore you are aware of all endeavors by your superior intelligence without any hindrance whatsoever. And so, Lord Brahma pointed out then that, it is no wonder that you know what my desire is and what I went through, and that's perfectly reciprocated with me. Because you're, as the super soul, you're in every living entity's heart, and by your superior intelligence. And so we know nothing is random in the world. It's all directed ultimately by the supreme intelligence of the Supreme Lord Himself. And so Lord Brahma pointed it out, and now we come to today's two verses, where first in text 26, Lord Brahma is saying that, in spite of that, my Lord, I'm praying to you to kindly fulfill my desire. So, in other words, Lord Brahma first says that I know that because you're the Supreme Lord, because one feature of you is the Super Soul, and even otherwise, the Lord, we know He's omniscient, He's omnipotent, and He's perfectly able to reciprocate and be with every single other jiva in all of existence personally also, not only as the Super Soul. The Super Soul only is in the material world, we know. That's for the jivas, like Ganeshan Prabhu explained recently about this beautiful analogy, I think it's said by His Grace Radhashyam Prabhu, given about the different grades generally of people we find in the material world, and as compared to different sons of a father, a rich father. So and the worst of those sons is the fifth son. Are those basically are like atheists, are those who completely forget about their father, but simply use all of the resources that they get from him. And it's for those, but then there's better gradations as well. But that's the basic starting point. But it's for those kinds of son, not like the first son is the devotee, is the one who is fully grateful to the Lord for whatever the Lord gives, and is always eager and ready to render service exactly for the Father's or the Lord's pleasure, and with any other motive of wanting, like we heard, like the analogy of like with the mystic yogis, they are like the second son. They also are close with the Lord because we know they meditate on the Lord, and in that way they are also united with the Lord. But still, generally speaking, they have usually their only motive is not just to please the Lord or to be with the Lord, but rather their motive is to gain some mystic powers, which at the end of the day still means to lord over material nature, or in other words, to take the position of the Lord, because He is the actual controller, He is the Lord, He is the enjoyer. And so this kind of second son, the mystic yogas, they also actually still want to rival the Lord, even though they are close with the Lord. But and then the jnanis, the third son, is similar, but they, the second son he was saying is like that they kind of tell their father that, wouldn't it be time that you retire? So in other words, they meditate on the Lord, follow the process, but then actually they have this or rather just give him the powers and I want to use them. And whereas then the third son, the jnanis, are those who actually they don't care about the Lord at all, about Him as a person, but they simply want to, are even ready that the Lord, the Father would die to even kill Him. They just want to, be free of all the miseries, so they just want to merge with the Lord, or with, as we know, with the Brahman effulgence. And so that's one. And the fourth one is those in between, then about not the atheists, but the karmis or the karma kandis who do recognize the Lord as being the supplier of their necessities, and also does acknowledge that, perform sacrifices, but their desire is still simply to use them and not to please the Lord. And but what I wanted to come to is that it's only for those kind of living entities, for those in the material world, that actually the super soul feature is needed to accompany them and to, as we know, Upadrashtanumantacha is the overseer and the permitter to give the results of their material activities and facilitate their material life. But we know even so, the Lord is not dependent on the super soul feature; is also otherwise perfectly able to associate with every living entity wherever he is. But so, Lord Brahma, knowing that and first acknowledging that, still, then this doesn't mean that the devotee knows, okay, my Lord, you anyway know my desire, so I just go on with my business and I expect that you fulfill my desire anyway, because I'm your devotee after all. No, rather, he still humbly begs for the Lord's blessing. So that's why he in 26 is saying, in spite of that, my Lord, I am praying to you to kindly fulfill my desire. May I please be informed how, in spite of your transcendental form, you assume the mundane form, although you have no such form at all. So, after begging him to fulfill his desire, he points out then how the Lord's form is transcendental, and still he creates the material world, and also, which we know can be also compared to the Vishvarupa, to the universal form of the Lord. But we know this form, it's not an actual form of the Lord, it's rather a conceptualization for those jivas who have forgotten about the Lord to again start to realize that actually the Lord is a person, and everything, all energies, also all the material energy, which is the only energy that we can see with our eyes here while we are in the material world, that it is also from the Lord, and in another sense it is actually the Lord, as we hear then in text 27, where Lord Brahma says, "And please inform me how you, by your own self, manifest different energies for annihilation, generation, acceptance and maintenance by combination and permutation." And so in the purport then Prabhupada points out this Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, that the whole manifestation is the Lord himself by the fusion of his different energies only, namely the internal, external and marginal, just as the sunlight is the manifestation of the energy of the sun planet. So the famous example, as you know then, from the sun, is the material analogy which most obviously easily gives us some understanding of the Lord's being non-different from everything and still being aloof from it. And because, it's, as we know, how is it that even the cosmic manifestation is non-different from him? It is because there's nothing in the world other than the Lord or the Lord's energy, and the energy also comes directly from the Lord, and so it's not separate from him. Just as the example is given with the sun planet and the sunlight, that we see the sunlight, and many times we don't see the sun, but still we know without the sun there is no sunlight, and so in that way, and also in that way it is none different from the sun. And also the sunlight, the quality is also coming, is just as of the sun. It's just in a minute quantity. The heat is much less, the light is much less bright. If you see little sunlight somewhere coming through all the way from the sun planet to our earth here, but still it is of the same quality. It's just the intensity, the quantity is different. And so the same is with us as the marginal energy, that we are also of the same spiritual nature as the Lord, and we know the material energy, it is also non-different from the Lord, but it's simply for a different purpose. It is covered just as it's like this cloud of Mahatattva. So the the total material energy, the Mahatattva, is originally also like in the process of creation, it's even explained at one point it's like shining golden as well. But still at the end of the day, the purpose is that it covers our vision from the spiritual nature. It provides us a world where we can forget the Lord, where we see the energy separate from the Lord. But this doesn't mean that the energy actually is separate from the Lord. It still is one of the energies from the Lord Himself, and so we know the purpose of the material world and of the energy, and then the second part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada points out that the energies are acting by combination and permutation by the indication of the Lord. And as we know, famous Prabhupada so many times, he quotes that verse from Bhagavad Gita because it's so important that because as conditioned souls we think, we see, just are bewildered seeing the wonders of the material energy, of how the nature works, and like it is, because we are, although we are not one in quality with the Lord, but because we are so different in quantity, because the Lord is infinite and we are infinitesimal, we are so tiny, and thus our power is very small, even though we are pure in spiritual nature, spirit soul. And so that is, whereas the material energy, even though it is the inferior energy, apariyam to tastunyam, it is so much more powerful in terms of quantity. And so that's how we easily become bewildered and get this awe of the material nature as conditioned souls, and that is how we easily completely forget about that actually there is a Supreme Personality of God behind all of that. We simply accept, well, this material energy, material nature is so amazing, that is all there is. But as we know, the Lord points out, I think it's 9.4. That's not 9.4. Got the verse number. Mayadhyakshena prakritihi suyate sachara hetunanana kantiya jagat vipartate. So that mayadhyakshena prakritihi, that it is under my glance, under my direction, that all this energy is working, as Prabhupada points out here, by the indication of the Lord. And further then it goes a bit more in detail, that and the acting agents like Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva are also different incarnations of the Lord. So how we know the material energy, what it is conducted by, that it is acting in those three modes of material nature, goodness, passion and ignorance. And for those modes we know the Lord takes the Gunavatars, the qualitative incarnations, which are not, like we know Lord Vishnu, he is still the Lord himself, he is Vishnu Tattva, but the other two, they are qualitative incarnations, which means they are not directly, personally the Lord, but they are only partial incarnations, or like we know Lord Brahma, he's actually Jiva Tattva, just like us, just the most perfect one, and Lord Shiva, he's in between Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva, compared to like yogurt as in contrast to milk. So, but they are very powerful incarnations of the Lord still, because they, after all, control the whole material world. Creation takes place, or not only the creation of the cosmos, but anything creative is under mode of passion, so that's controlled by Lord Brahma. And then maintenance, that's the hardest part actually, so that's why the Lord himself takes it up as Lord Vishnu, and then dissolution under the tamas, the mode of ignorance, by Lord Shiva. And actually for us it's like this kind of information, and even when we are at the very beginning, as devotees, it seems quite easy to understand. Like we once we read it or get it explained and think a bit about it, makes makes sense. Also helps, like makes it much easier if you look out into the material world and the daily activities of other people or other different parts of the city, for example, just like that. Then so easily we can see, oh wow, there's a lot of mode of passion, there's a lot of mode of ignorance. Goodness, yeah, we don't find much. A little bit if we go a bit away from the city, more out in nature, as a place of more mode of goodness. But so, yeah, this understanding, it seems very simple as when we get the knowledge from the proper source. But so we might even take it a bit cheaply, like, well, what's the big deal? It's okay. We know it. It's easy. But actually, it's not. But still, with the understanding that okay, still that's qualitative incarnations of the Lord. But completely aloof from that is still the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ultimately, is Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. But yeah, we know from Bhagavatam that even very great sages, many times, they don't have the full understanding as we have it. And yeah, I mean, we have it simply by the mercy of devotees and of Srila Prabhupada. So like one example in the beginning of 4th canto is that of Atri Muni. Because when Swayambhuva Manu, actually it's a conversation between Vidura and Maitreya, where then after Maitreya had explained in end of 3rd canto about Mada Devahuti, one of the 3 daughters of Swayambhuva Manu. So then he, after all those pastimes, hearing all of that, then he asks about the other 2 daughters of Swayambhuva Manu, namely Akuti and Prasuti. And, yes, that's there, but that's not what I want to talk on. Actually, Atri Muni, marries one of the daughters of Mada Devahuti still, namely Anasuya. Okay. So she is one of the 9 daughters of Mada Devahuti and Kadama Muni. And but the story, and when Vidura hears that the 3 Gunavatars, that they appeared as partial incarnations, as 3 sons of Atri Muni and Anasuya, and so then he asks about the story, and so Maitreya Rishi then briefly explains how Atri Muni was also ordered by Lord Brahma to get good progeny, and so he performed severe penances. He did, like, in contrast to Kadama Muni, which we discussed a bit before, he didn't just sit down and meditate, but rather he stood just on one leg, simply this posture, yogic posture. We might be able to do it for a few minutes maybe, but not much more than that. But yeah, he did it for a very long time, performing the tapasya, and all the while he was praying in his mind to Jagadishvara, because he didn't actually properly really know who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He simply prayed, whoever whoever is controlling this universe, please be merciful unto me. I desire to beget a son who is just like you. And so, doing that, then at one point when it's explained there that the fire was coming out from his head, from his intense tapasya meditation, and the 3 Gunavatars, they saw that and became pleased by his tapasya, and so they came there. Actually, Sriva Jiva Goswami Prabhupada is quoting there that he explains that this fire is actually not literal fire, but it is the fire of controlling the mind. So it's a mental power, Anyway, so the 3 Gunavatars, they come there, and so Atri Muni, when he sees them, he's of course very pleased, and he approaches them, jumping still on one leg only, and then falls down, Dandvat, and he's like, they are so effulgent, he barely can see and everything, and so then he asks them, I was calling out for the one Lord, how is it that all 3 of you came? And he knows all 3 of them, as the Gunavachars, he knows that they are controlling those three modes and everything, but still he doesn't actually know who is the supreme one of them, and so he actually asks them, and they and so they say, well, that's how you prayed, and so we are pleased by you, so don't worry, your desire will be fulfilled. And so he then begot sons of all three of them. But this shows that with even such severe penance and very pure-hearted, I mean, a sage simply doing this kind of tapasya for so long, still he's not able to understand who is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada points out that actually the contrast there is that he prayed for a son just like the Lord, and that is actually still simply a material desire. It is, of course, a kind of good material desire, because you understand that the Lord is that there is a Supreme Person who is the best person, and so I want a son. I have this desire, but I want him just as good as you. So you appreciate that, but still it's a material desire. Whereas Kadama Muni, he also was ordered by Lord Brahma to perform those penances, and did that, and the Lord, but he knew the Lord himself, so the Lord personally appeared to him, and for him, we know Lord Kapiladev appeared, and the Lord himself, because he had a pure desire. He wanted, he just wanted to fulfill the desire of Lord Brahma, to fulfill his instruction to beget progeny. But actually he didn't have a material desire, he simply wanted to please the Lord. And so the Lord himself appeared as his son, and of Mother Devahuti. So on time now. Grantarachima Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.